What is happening, best ever listeners? This is Matt Faircloth, and welcome to the Best Ever CRE show and my segment called Next Level CRE, taking your business and all the things you're involved in to the next level. Best ever listeners, good interview today. Let me reach into the best ever toolbox for you real quick before we get going. Guys, do you know that you are one of these two people? Perhaps you are looking to grow your business and you need people. People are probably the greatest asset you could have. Like, what if there is a rock star out there that could join your team? Okay. What if there's a potential partner that you could bring in to your business? Whatever it may be, Best Ever can help you find phenomenal next level team members that are perhaps members of the Best Ever community that drink the Kool-Aid like you did for the Best Ever CRE show here. And if you are someone who's looking for a next level for yourself, looking to maybe join a team that is a growing real estate firm, wherever they may be, either locally or remote, Best Ever can help you. Best Ever has a talent search division. Did you know that? Well, now you do. But go to bestevercre.com and learn more about our talent solutions, or go to bestevercre.com/talent, and you can get in touch with our talent solutions department, either to bring the best talent to your company or to be the best talent for someone else's company and help them get to the next level too. All right, guys. The interview I have today is phenomenal. It's with my man, Robert, my new best friend, Robert Martinez from Rockstar Capital. In this interview, I want you guys to listen to the mindset and the mechanisms that happen. Robert's sitting on like 4,000 units of multifamily, and there's a lot of success woven in. I didn't just say, hey, Robert, how are you successful? If you listen to his story, he tells you a lot about the mindset, the culture he's created, the things that he's done to create success over his companies through good and bad. And he's not a company that started a year ago, certainly experienced a lot of turmoil over the last couple of years, and certainly, saw, as I did, the big crash, the financial crisis of 2008-9. That's when he got started. So I want you guys to really listen for a lot of the seasoning and a lot of the mechanisms he's done to reach 4,000 units, because whether you're looking to get there or not, success leaves clues. I'll say it again. Success leaves clues. And Robert's success leaves a clue for you as you can build your multifamily operations and take them to the next level and the level beyond that. Guys, one thing that Robert's going to talk about on today's show is ways that he boosts NOI at his properties. And boosting NOI directly boosts value. As you guys know, for every dollar I increase my NOI on a property, I'm increasing the value of that property divided by the market cap rate, which could be like a 6-7% cap rate, which means I could be producing thousands of dollars for saving 10, 20, 30 bucks in NOI at a property, right? So, and the math goes up. The math goes up into the millions very quickly. So if you guys want to increase the value of your property through forced appreciation by potentially millions, Robert gets into this show a lot and talking about NOI boosters, ways to create NOI at your properties. But he's got a full list of NOI boosters that he was kind enough to give them to us for free here at Best Ever. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go to bestevercre.com/rockstar. bestevercre.com/rockstar and grab a copy of Robert from Rockstar Capital's free NOI booster. So go there, grab that, and thank you to Robert for giving that to us for free so you guys can go get it. So listen up. Let's bring in Robert Martinez from Rockstar Capital. Robert Martinez, welcome to the Best Ever CRE show studio. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hey, I am super excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah. Best Ever listeners, let me tell you a little bit about our guest. Okay. I've got Robert Martinez with Rockstar Capital. Let's just give like a quick shout out to that being a very, very cool name for a real estate company. Guys, the bio I got here in front of me says this: Robert Martinez is the founder and CEO of Rockstar Capital, a Texas-based firm specializing in investment and management of multifamily assets. Under his leadership, the firm manages a portfolio of 4,567 units across 23 communities. Robert is the first individual to have been awarded the prestigious NAA Independent Owner of the Year twice, 2013 and 2019. Rockstar has been a phenomenal company. I've heard a lot about you guys. I believe this is the first time for us speaking on a podcast, Robert. So really grateful to have you here with me and the Best Ever listeners on the Best Ever CRE show today.
Hey, super excited to join you guys today.
So you grew like 2011. It's almost like there should be two different investment strategies, two different initiatives, whatever. Because 2011 up until what, like 2020 or whatnot, I was involved in all that growth too. And we're in a whole different place now, man. What was the world like for you in 2011 to 2019 of that multifamily world? Then the COVID bomb hits, then interest rate bomb hits, right? Tell me what the world was like then in your growth and pivots you've had to make to handle today's new multifamily market.
Yeah, so I got started here in Houston. I paid for my first real estate mentorship in January of 2007, joined a local club here, met a partner there from 2007 to 2010. We bought 10 deals together. And, that was in the height of the Great Recession. Mm-hmm. And I literally remember it was an income situation. There was high unemployment and people would get qualified and then skip the next month. Mm-hmm. And I remember for a while there, on one of my deals, it was 30 move in, 30 move out, 30 move in, 30 move out. And as you know, in real estate, the only way you make money in multifamily is with the renewal, not when they move out. So that hurt a lot. And we had to pivot. We had to survive. We had to get very sharp. I was running our sales team. So I made sure that every one of my teams knew how to lease an apartment, knew how to renew, knew how to write, knew how to interview the prospect and make sure that they got the questions that we needed. And so that turned me into 2011 when my business partner decided to go to the cuckoo and we went south. So okay. I left him keep the 10-unit portfolio -1, a deal that I was the GP on. And in 2011, that's when we started Rockstar Capital. And again, it was a very different time. If I only knew then what I know now, I would have bought everything in sight. My very first deal, we paid $24,500 a door. And right now we're selling it and it's going to net us $113,000 a door. And I did that a few times, but I did one deal a year. So during that time, there was not the big craze that multifamily is today. Investment dollars were similar. People right now are very scared to invest because of all the, recaps or the investor calls that people had to do. Back then, it was just more of fear. It was just more fear in the economy, fear that if you could put your money here, the stock market's going the wrong direction. And no matter what we do in multifamily, the stock market is always going to be the big litmus test of of how the economy is viewed. And back then, I remember seeing the stock market go all the way down to 3,000-4,000, points from where it was. So people were really fading. They see this alternative investment with multifamily. I think it worked out very well for us. It worked out well for those investors, but you have to be willing to take a risk. Sometimes you have to go contrary to the market.
What do you see now as compared to, Great Recession? Certainly strategies are there, as you said. But strategy 2011 forward could have been buy a lot of things because a lot of things went up, right? Now we're facing a whole different marketplace. How have you pivoted now to handle today's marketplace versus the rising tide raises all boats kind of marketplace that we had going up until 2019?
You're right. And nobody knew that was going on. Everybody looked like they were Donald Trump and they're buying something and it's worth a whole lot more tomorrow, right?
Oh, yeah, so man.
I think it's a very similar market. I think the lenders and your underwriting has got to be more conservative because you now have to prepare, especially in today's world, right? You've had COVID, you've had interest rate exposure, you've had a bunch of different things that really tested the operators. And that's why when you go to a real estate conference today, it's only about 50% capacity to what it was 2 or 3 years ago. And so I think in your underwriting, you've got to underwrite. We underwrite now at 65% LTV. If it doesn't pencil for us at that number, then we're not going to chase it. We've got to give ourselves that extra gap. You have to make sure that on your exit, you've got to use a different interest rate, sometimes +1, +2 to see what it'll look like, to see if you can at least get your money back. It has been a crazy last 3 years, to be honest, Matt. We saw here in Texas, right? We saw property tax. We saw property insurance almost quadruple at one time, similar to what's still going on in Florida. And then you saw interest rates. So overnight, your valuation was completely different. Yep. Overnight. I mean, one day you wake up and the sky's not blue and water's not wet anymore. Your deal was worth 30% less than what it was before. And you're like, how did this happen? I'm doing everything right. But you can't control those non-controllable expenses, especially the insurance really did a number on a lot of people.
Yeah. What kind of asset class do you guys focus on? Have you guys
So
pivoted? Are you same asset class all the years, or are you are you tried and true, or have you had to change up?
yeah, I think like everybody, we all get started in what we can afford, which is
Yeah.
going to be workforce housing, Class C, Class B. So 80% of my portfolio is still Class B, but we do have about 20% of the portfolio that is Class A and stuff that's built within the last, 7 to 10 years at most. And so it was good to see that. If I could do it over again, I wouldn't have bought those.
Yeah.
I think I was a victim of going to seeing Grant Cardone and seeing these other guys buy these bigger deals. And I remember Grant
Yeah.
even saying it to me one time. He's like, man, everybody ends here. Everybody ends at Class A. That's where the institutional investors are. That's where the big family offices are. And so I believe that bullshit. And it's not true. I think everybody listening should stay in their box. And
Yeah.
that's that Class B, Class C kind of realm where, more importantly than anything, the renters are more forgiving
Yeah.
and they have less leverage on you, right? It's not easy for them to go just qualify to buy a house. They'd rather stay there in that apartment complex versus, your renters in your Class A. They're probably younger or professional. They're going to couple up. They're going to move to the burbs. They're
They're not
going to
staying
move
for
out
7 to
one
8
way or the
years.
other.
Oh yeah, yeah. A Class A tenant's not staying for 7 to 8 years. Class B will, and Class C. My company owns Class C as well. I have found with Class C, if you go in well capitalized to
Yep.
handle. Hey, here's the thing, best ever listeners. Class C, like Robert and I'll break it down for you real quick, right? Robert, what are you calling Class A, right? And then I'll get
Class C is
my
your stuff
opinion on
that,
Class
yeah.
C. What's that?
Class A is mostly stuff that you would live in or you put your mom in, right? It's going to be
Yeah.
newer construction. Everything's going to be fairly new inside. There's not a lot of heavy rehab or make ready whenever somebody moves out.
Yeah. Then Class B, give me your breakdown of that.
Yeah, Class B is going to be a little bit different, right? You're not going to have the latest and greatest. You're not going to have always granite countertops or whatever. You're going to have your formicas. You're going to, in Class B and Class C, our focus is just make sure the basics work. And what are the basics? Do I have hot water on demand? Do I have cold air condition? Especially in Houston, right? It's 100 degrees outside all the time. We have one season and it's summer it's hot. And so that AC's got to work, right? This is workforce housing. They work hard for what they do during the day. They come in and give you that rent check once a month. So we want to make sure that everything that is on demand should work. And internet is becoming a big piece of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you want that on-demand internet. You don't want that spotty Wi-Fi signals.
I find that for Class B, you can also amenities, right? When it was built, like so 1980s, 1990s, anything built in the 70s is going to come down as a Class C. And you could have Class C 1980s built stuff that was kind of built on the cheaper side or like more affordable housing kind of thing. It goes back to amenities too. Like a Class B tenant is going to expect a washer dryer in their apartment, right? A Class C tenant that's considered a luxury to them, right? Whereas a Class A tenant, a friggin' iPad in the wall is going to be considered like something that they want. And, you said, an internet and an on-site pool and on-site amenities and everything like that. Class A tenants want it all. And as you said, they're fickle. They'll move across the road for the nicer gym that the guy across the street just built in, or they'll move when they get a girlfriend. They want to move in with a girlfriend or whatever. So the Class A tenant, you're going to get premium rents, but don't expect a lot of attrition, which in my experience, Robert, you've been around for quite a while. As you know, to me, vacancy is your greatest expense. Would you agree?
100%. On our underwriting, you mentioned something. On our underwriting, we won't pursue it if it doesn't have 100% washer and dryer connections.
Yeah.
It's 2025. Nobody wants to go to the laundry room anymore. No one's going to do that at midnight. This isn't college. We don't do those things. So if we buy a property that has connections, we know we have a NOI opportunity because we're going to add washer and dryers in there. We're going to make sure. And that's the whole goal in B and C is to make sure they don't move out. So you kind of constantly have to be evolving with what today's standards need to be. Another thing, back in the day, packages would get delivered in our offices. And we would have to store there and play like the parcel clerk, giving them out every day. And now what we've learned is like, no, we want to go in with these like Amazon style lockers.
Yeah.
And we put them in these old laundry rooms that we don't need anymore, right? That are no longer useful. We put them in there, make it 24/7, and we charge the residents $15 for that convenience. They
Yeah.
gladly pay because nobody wants the packages stolen. Everybody wants to be able to get the package
You know, the
when
package
they
needs to
want,
be
and
there.
we get that
Yeah.
nice NOI booster.
I got started as a Trenton landlord, Trenton, New Jersey. And so I did a lot of washer dryer hookup installs because these are people like in single family homes or in duplexes that didn't have a washer dryer. So we would add a washer dryer hookup a lot because it is what I called workforce luxury, right? So have you ever done that install knowing that a tenant's either going to pay premium for it or, like you said, they're going to stick? Have you ever had to do it?
I maybe know one or two people in my life in multifamily that have actually installed the plumbing to get washer and dryers in there.
It's a
And
bitch.
it's
I'll tell
fairly
you.
expensive. I just think that it takes time as you know, as an operator. It's just, there's so many deals out there that I'd rather pass and just wait for the next deal. So I don't have to get into that.
You can do it.
I think the real key is that if the other guy before me didn't have washer and dryers, I'm going to add them. I think that's one of the buy signals for me.
You can do it. Best ever listeners, it's not for the faint of heart, but you can't add a washer dryer connection to an apartment.
What did it cost you, Matt? Like I've heard somewhere from $1,500 to a unit.
It was like $2,000, $3,000. That's the contractor's going to quote you that. But here's not to get into the mechanics of it, but hey, why not? I'm an engineer by trade, so I kind of love this shit, right? So you got to tie the way to do it is to tie into the wet wall of the bathroom, right? So you got to put it when you walk the unit. If you see whatever is on the opposing wall of the bathroom, in the bathroom, you're going to have a hot and cold water line. And so best ever listeners, when I say the wet wall, what that means is it's the wall that contains the wet items, hot and cold water and a sewer line, right? And so if you do it properly, we did one job, Robert, where there's a walk-in closet to one of the bedrooms. It is like a reasonable size, like a 4x4, right? 4 foot by 4 foot walk-in closet, but it butted up to the wet wall of the bathroom. Even I knew it because the access panel was there. The access panel to change the diverter out was inside of that walk-in closet of the bathroom. And I said, I can put the water items here. I'll take the carpet out. I'll put in LVP flooring. And it was that walk-in closet was also on the exterior wall of the apartment. So I could tie into the floor joist and take the vent outside. Because by the way, I forbid anyone listening for ever using they make a box, believe it or not, this is like invented by the devil, that your dryer can vent into this little box. You fill it up full of water. And it's like a little.
I didn't know Jerome Powell was an inventor of plumbing supplies. That's interesting.
You ever seen one of those? It's an absolute shit show. It is a fire waiting to happen, and it's not allowed in a lot of towns. But in some places, we were in North Carolina, you could do this little bubbler box, and my plumber was trying to convince me that we should do that. And I'm like, you telling me I'm going to rely on my tenant to go in there and pour water in that thing to stop the dryer vent lint from getting all around their apartment, and it's also going to like steam out. It's like a built-in humidifier, right? Forget it. So anyway, we did that. It's like $2,000 to $3,000. Going back to your washer dryer stuff, you had done washer dryers. Did you own them or did you lease them to the tenants?
Yeah. So that's another thing too, right? I want to make sure that we always own them. And in fact, I've learned now that I'd rather just put the washer and dryer in and put the rent up because I'm going to get more benefit on the underwriting later on versus if it's a rentable item, right? You get more credit on your valuation if it's rent versus other income. So why put it as a rentable item? Just own them all out.
Wow.
Make sure you own them all and then just jack up the rent, whatever you need, 25, 35, $50, whatever. They're going to have it, right? If you're competing with other operators who don't have them, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make sure that your property looks as complete and modern as possible. So I love your idea of spending the time to do it. It just, man, that's a lot of work, right? I just think that there's so many other deals out there that already have the plumbing. I remember running a class day once where somebody drilled into the wrong wall to put their flat screen in and they hit a water pipe and it flooded from the 4th floor down. Right. And I'd rather not have any drilling into the walls, any kind like,
no.
They're ideal. Perfect.
Thank God for renter's insurance. Right.
Yes.
Well, in that owning the washer dryer. So I've had people tell me like, oh, well, you should just go to Rent-A-Center, right? And you go to Rent-A-Center and rent the washer dryer for $30 and I can mark it up and rent it to the tenant for $50 because we bought a building that had a bunch of washer dryers in them and they're all old. And so before you knew it, every maintenance call we got was like, hey, man, my washer doesn't work, or hey, my dryer's not working, or whatever. But you're buying new, right? You're buying new
Yeah.
machines with warranties and everything like that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But if I buy a property and that's their model, it's to rent them out from an appliance warehouse and then go in and charge $20. I'm like, that's great. But man, I'd like to keep that rental fee. It's so much cheaper to just go buy the appliance. And now I've added NOI right away because that expense that I would pay to Aaron's Rent-A-Center or Appliance Warehouse or wherever it's going to be, right, is now my NOI. So why not just own them outright and boost your NOI that way?
I bet if you do the math on what your ROI is on buying a full set, washer dryer install for what are the tenants of like $50 a month for the washer dryer convenience or something like that, right?
Yeah. And a new set costs you $1,200.
So that's $600 a year, right? That means you own them free and clear after 2 years, 50% ROI, good deal, right? So, and as you said, that goes bottom line. Apply a cap rate. So you've upped your building value just by doing a few tweaks, right? So.
Tremendously. And that's just one unit.
Yeah. Good. So why Houston? You guys own 80% of your portfolio in Houston. Must be something magic. You don't just love the Houston Astros, right?
Well,
something
look,
magic in that Houston water down there. Well, what's going on?
I graduated from Texas A&M. I also have an engineering degree. I moved to Houston. So that's where I started my life originally. And I'm thank God that I'm in Houston, because Houston doesn't get the big ups and the downs that a lot of the other cities in Texas do. Like Dallas is great, but eventually, it's going to go down. I've seen it go down. Went down the Great Recession when the banking industry was hurt. San Antonio, same thing. Austin, overbuilt. Houston just kind of makes its way. And I think the best operators actually come from Houston because we don't rely on double-digit rent growth. So I just think Houston's been one of those areas in the country that has been overlooked. And if you now look at some of the economics that has been coming out, Houston's a hotspot. Like 26 and 27 are going to be monster years for us because we don't have very much construction. We have less than half of what we should because of what happened during inflation, during the Biden years, what have you. So Houston's looking really good versus Miami or somewhere else. Like, wow, you've got insurance, you got all these other things. So I think Houston as a whole, there's a lot of migration to Texas. Houston's the third largest city in the United States. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And Houston is just a combination of that major city with all these little suburbs all around it. And those suburbs is where we actually invest. That's where the best school districts are. So we try to stay really, really close. So I really like Houston. I think that the further away you are from the home office, if you're an operator, it's harder to manage. It's harder to manage. Like I've got 4 deals in Kingsville and Corpus Christi, which are South Texas, and it's harder to manage them. Yeah. I'd rather have them here in the home office. It's easier to get to them when there's a situation. So I think I'm not going to let my ego get to me anymore. And like, oh, I'm going to be national or I'm going to be like Grant Cardone. Like, no, I don't even need to go to Dallas, man. There's plenty in Houston here that I can make work.
Yeah. No comment on want to be like Grant Cardone. If that's your goal, best ever listener, then hey, God bless you. So, but Robert, it's funny about Houston. You don't have to preach to me, man. I love Houston. My company's buying a branded Hilton hotel there in Houston as well. So I'm about to be your neighbor. So we're doing deals in the metro as well. Airport's adding a 25% capacity right now to the airport. Job growth all over the place, but it's not like you said. It's not like a hockey stick. It's not as sexy as Austin. I get it. Not all the cool kids live there. It's not like, all the cool kids I know either live or invest in Austin or are talking about how they want to get into Austin. Great. Keep it, because Austin's going to grow by 20% up and then probably get stagnant and whatnot. I'll take Houston at 5% growth every year over year, right? So, and by the way, one last thing. They don't make, they make everything bigger in Texas. They make cities bigger in Texas. Like you can drive for like 3 hours and not leave the city of Dallas. And probably the same thing and the same thing in Houston. It's its own little state. Each of those little cities are, with all these little micro cities inside them and all these little suburbs and everything like that. So you are more of a suburb guy versus a downtown guy. Why is that?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to go back and reaffirm my point. Look, and I remember I used to get mentorship from Gary Vaynerchuk up in New York as well. And he's once said to me, he goes, man, because I asked him about growth and what should I do? He's like, man, the further you get away from the home office, the more likelihood things are not going to work right. And he goes, check the ego, You don't need to be some big billionaire. Like, you can make your plan here. Just understand that the further away it gets, the more problems you're going to have.
Yep.
And so once I realized that, we scale back and we only invest in Houston now. I'm sorry, what was your question again? Why not downtown? Why in the suburbs? Well, look,
Why are you in the
are,
suburbs,
right?
man?
There you go. The suburbs.
Thank you, voice from the machine back there. Yeah.
The suburbs here in Houston are where the best schools are at.
Okay.
And so what happens is that nobody wants to go to HISD. In fact, HISD just lost its charter. Now the state's running it, right? So you don't want to go to Houston Independent School District. You want to go to the suburbs, the Cadies, the Sugarlands, the Bulls, where we have a good percentage of our properties. And so you want to be there. So that's number one. Why do you want to be there? You want to be there because families are going to go there. Kids are going to go there. And most families that I know, especially in our demographic, have more than one child. Mm-hmm. So if you're near an elementary, if you're near high school, if you're near junior high, especially in the suburbs, we want those properties because we know it's going to be a generational thing. There's going to be multiple people that live there. And again, in multifamily real estate, we make our money when people renew. Yep. So keep mama happy. She won't recommend that you leave. And then you're going to get the brother and the sister and whoever is next. And you're going to get a long-term tenant there where you can make your money.
What are some strategies you do to make, I call it making your property sticky, right? Maybe that's a bad term, right? Oh God, it's sticky. But I mean, I like, how do you make your properties to the point where the tenants don't want to leave? They want to stick. Because listen, moving's a pain in the ass. Nobody wants to move, right? Like I've only had to move a handful of times in my life, and it was the worst times of my life is moving all my stuff from one place to another. Tenants don't want to move either, right? I'm sure they'd rather stay, but a lot of tenants end up moving because they just can't take it anymore because the grass is green or whatever. But apparently you've got some initiatives to make tenants want to stay. So what are some initiatives you do to make those tenants stay a little bit longer? As you said, your words, right. Make mama happy, right? How you doing it?
What it is, it's a personal relationship. Just like you would in your romantic life or your business life, you have a personal relationship with the tenants. And if they don't like it, they're going to leave. So let's go back to the core of this. Why are they here? Nobody checks into a relationship waiting for the day it's going to be over. Nobody's thinking that. Right. So everybody comes in with the right mindset. Now, people get disappointed. Expectations aren't hit. And that's when people decide to leave. So number one, we got to have a conversation with our tenants. Like, here are the community rules that we have. Here is our obligations. Here are your obligations. That's number one. Number two, if there's an issue, I need to hear about it. So we work with a company called J. Turner Research. They're a fantastic company, and they help us do surveys and what have you. But the thing that I like the most is that they monitor all reviews on social media. And every day I get a daily dashboard from my 22 communities. We just sold one last week. 22 communities. I see the individual reviews that come in online. And not only do I see it, my leadership team sees it too. So if I see somebody's dissatisfied at, Dearborn Garden Apartments, I'm looking at this, I'm reading the review, and I'm like, hey, what's going on here? How come they say the air conditioner is not working? Or how come they say this isn't working? So that's number one, being able to respond. Number two, one of the biggest reasons why people will move out of an apartment is maintenance. And the number one maintenance headache is air conditions. So when we do a rehab, when we buy a property, we do a rehab, and the rehab item that we spend the most on is air conditions. If I can have quality, as you mentioned earlier, warranted air conditions for the next 5 years, without any issues, the likelihood of that tenant turning over goes down. They want to stay. And so during our tours and our model, we try to hold the what do you call it? The little cabinet where the air conditioner is at. I open that up and I want them to see, look at what a brand new air conditioner looks like. Because most of our tenants, right, are career tenants, and most owners aren't thinking like that. So they have old beat up air conditioning equipment. I want them to see mine's brand new. You're going to get a brand new air conditioner that's going to be cold. And the other thing too, I changed out the boilers. I need hot water. If I have a boiler, I need hot water. If I have water heaters, I got to make sure they all work right because it's for you, right? We don't want to have any issues. So those are the main things. If you can take care of the main opportunities, then they're not going to leave. And then the last thing at all, you've got to do a quality make ready. You can't so that's what those reviews are. If I see something negative, somebody had a bad move in, that's a bad start to the relationship. We've got to correct that. We've got to have a better process, better standards, so that we don't have somebody painting over the cockroach that's there in the cabinet. I've seen that before. That's craziness, man. You see that?
Yeah.
You got to get rid of that person, because if
My
that's
favorite slapjack paint job is the paint over the
absolutely,
outlets.
that your make ready guy is everything. So if he thinks it's okay to paint over a cockroach in a cabinet, then that's what you're going to get. His standards don't match yours, and you're not going to get good occupancy long term.
Yeah, no, I like that. So just better quality turns, right? Things that matter, right? Like HVAC, those kinds of things. Like things that if they go out, it's a big pain in the butt for them. Like, man, freaking no air conditioning in the middle of the night. It's like, 85 degrees out at night in downtown Houston, right? I need AC, right? Cool. You had mentioned something, and I want to make sure, I want to highlight this. You monitor the reviews on your communities personally or at your leadership level. That is something that's all the way up the net. Best ever listeners, check that out. Even if you only own, if you've got more than, if you're a best ever listener and you got more than like a 6 or 7 unit in one location, you should have a Google pin drop. And it means that people can write a review, because we live in a Google society, and people are going to go out there and they're going to Google your apartment complex. They're going to read the reviews, right? So Robert, what other, that's a KPI factor for you, a key performance indicator. My portfolio is going well, getting good reviews, mitigating and dealing with and responding to bad reviews, right? What are some other things, like aside from like looking at new deals and whatnot, what are some other KPIs that you put your time into on a regular basis to make sure that your trains are running on time, so to speak?
Yeah, I think y'all have to understand too, right? The most important person in that business is not me. It's this person sitting in that chair.
Yeah.
You got to make sure that property manager has your mindset. You got to make sure that they're aggressive, that they're not passive type people, that they're cheerleaders, because the only way you get out of trouble is at least your way out of it. So you got to have someone that knows how to speak, someone that knows how to treat people and can sell. So the most important person in our organization is that person sitting in that chair, because her decisions will determine the NOI. Her decisions will determine whether or not your property is successful or your property is not. So we rank all of our properties, and I do it by a number of factors, but the number one is occupancy. And we have our top 7. If you look at our top 7, they share one thing in common that the bottom 8 don't, and that their delinquency is lower. Yeah. You got to get that dollars. And so that means that these managers aren't just letting anybody in. Right. They're properly qualifying them. Then they're working with their assistant managers to effectively knock on that door and collect the money. The problems are bottom 8. And that's not to say the bottom 8 are wrong, right? Because our average occupancy is almost 94% across 4,600 units. But the bottom 8 don't do it as well. And so we have to work with those. That's where we're going to have our issues. We've got to work on that, right? Because the bottom third of your business, and I say the bottom 8 because we had 24 deals. The bottom third of your business will determine how far your personal business will go, your portfolio goes.
Wow.
Okay. If you can fix the bottom third, the rest of your business, right? Because my top 7's average occupancy is 96, 97%. It's my bottom 8 that their occupancy is like at 90, 91. And so that's the difference there. You've got to get those guys first up to 94, which will bring the overall portfolio occupancy up. And then hopefully eventually to the 96, 97 that your top 7 guys are averaging.
Okay. And that's through putting the right people into the right seats in the right site manager. Do you use like a personality assessment tool to find the right people? Is it like a Robert Sniff test? Like how do you find the right people?
That's the next aspect. When we were smaller, I got to do all the interviews. So I'm doing the sniffing. I can tell. I can hear it. I can hear what's coming out of their mouth. Now we're larger. We have an in-house recruiter that we put into place 2 years ago, which you got to have in today's marketplace, right? If you can afford your own in-house guy that be putting out job listings on Indeed and Career Builder and whatever the websites are today that are actively managing. And no matter what, you always keep those listings full. Because in life, things happen. Somebody goes on maternity leave. Somebody's going through a divorce. Someone just decides they're going to move to Florida. Like you've got to keep or standards aren't there. And you've got to keep going through people until you find somebody with the right standards. And that sounds horrible, but that's what it is. There's a lot of people out there in this world. It doesn't mean all of them are good enough to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to have someone there that can first bring in the right kind of people. And then you got to have leadership that knows how to apply pressure and training to see if you can get that diamond.
So you got
that's what we're doing. We're constantly looking for diamonds in the rough.
Love it. So if I can describe what I'm hearing, and on the inside of the office, you got, aggressive people person, dare I say, likable people the tenants can build a relationship with. They because they almost become like the apartment building mom or dad or whatever that's there to take care of whatever I need. And I don't want to, I want to, have a good relationship with them. Right. So that likable driver person that's there to keep the property at 95, 96% occupancy. What is your ideal boxes that you want to check on the maintenance side? Right. Because I've had great maintenance techs in my company and I've had duds. What do you look for on maintenance?
Well, number one is, maintenance is mostly comprised of guys. Yep. And guys have a lot of ego. So they need to learn to check the ego. They need to learn hey, this is your role. This is what you got to do. We're not asking you to do anything else. You're the ticket runner, or you're the painter, or you're the you're the lead maintenance, or you're doing the air conditioning, whatever, right? Just remember, if you don't fix the problem today, it's going to be there tomorrow. And we're still relying. So take your time, do it the right way. We don't want to go in a situation where we're doing terrible make-ready jobs, where we're not fixing repairs properly, and that comes in. So, you've got to have that from, again, your recruiter to your leadership team, right? And that's the immediate manager, right? We self-manage, self-govern. And again, from 2007 to 2022, I self-managed.
Mm-hmm.
I self-managed. Everything went through me. I'm leading all the leadership meetings. I'm setting the standard. I made the mistake at the wrong time in 2022 that, this is a great market. I need to separate myself from all the problems in my life, which come from my management company, dealing with the renters, right? Because it is adult daycare or taking care of 4,600 units.
But I get you, man. Everybody, like 2022, it's like, hey, we just got through COVID. What could go wrong now?
What could go wrong?
Our industry is bulletproof, right? Like there's nothing bad that could happen to the multifamily industry, right?
So for 10 months, I went third-party management. And I hired the wrong group, and they ran my income into the ground. They jacked up my expenses. Occupancies went down. And so I think we fell to a low of around 86, 87% as a portfolio at the wrong time. I had no choice but to jump back into that chair. I'm glad to say that from, that decision, I guess, to get back in, I guess it was May of 2023, we've got our properties back to cash flowing. We've done distribution 6 quarters in a row, and the average occupancy is almost 94%. But why did that happen? That happened because the leadership, the expectations, the standards are there. When I took over again, I was able to bring back people from my past, people that were with us. So it kind of got the band back together again.
How long did you put up with the mess before you took it back over?
10 months.
Oh, damn.
10 months. And they know they had done, it was a 1-year contract. They knew they did so bad that they let us out of the contract.
Yeah, I'll bet.
There was there was no explanation for what had occurred. And, let me get back to that. So what difference is that when you're with a third party manager, I can't say, hey, I want that person gone.
Yeah.
Hey, they're not doing it for me. They don't let me do that. They have to literally steal or commit murder to get fired from one of these big management companies. And I'm like, not in my group. You got like 30 days to spark it up or you're out the door. Yeah. And we tell everybody that, hey, this is a temporary 30-day assignment. Show me you can do it. And there's another 30 days, there's another year, whatever it is. But if you can't carry your torch and your own bucket of water, we're not going to do it here. You're not going to hide. Because we're focusing, especially on the deals that are the ones that we consider struggling because they're at 90 or 91%. We're putting a lot of pressure on those. We're looking at every single person like, do we have the right person in the chair? So it has everybody's attention. So I think when you have standards like that, then you can drive the business upward.
What I wanted to say is that I get to drive the business upward, given the scale that you have. And we took over management at about 2,000 units for our company. And I did it for control and for the big C word, which I know matters to you, I can tell, which is culture, right? And you've already told me about is this site manager going to fit in my company culture? Are they going to be what I'm driving? The sniff test, right? What the sniff test really means is, are you going to help me advance the culture I'm trying to create, or are you going to hinder that, right? And so I find that self-managing is a great way to drive the culture among the company that you want to create for yourself. It's tough to do with third-party management because they have their own agenda. They've got their own culture, the third-party management company and that. And so they're going to implement that among your properties, whether you like it or not.
I remember I read a Glassdoor review the other day, and it says former employees, I don't know who it is. And they said, I don't like working here because I've never seen a company that micromanages and that has this, performance or else attitude. I'm like, okay, so you haven't been successful is what you're saying. You haven't worked at a successful company. I'm glad to say that I'm a little bit of a micromanager. I am, because it's my business. It's my life. I'm the one that signed on the dotted line. I'm the one that's got $350 million of debt on me. And if it doesn't work right, it's me that ends up, hurt, not you, right? I have investors that I've raised, what is it now? $140 million from. I need to make sure that I return their money back to them. They expect me to do that. So I have to be in the way that I have to be. And if you're not used to working in a successful environment, then I'm sorry. I guess I chose wrong and you chose wrong, and we got to start over, because it's not micromanaging. It's ensuring that the processes and the standards that we have in place are maintained, and maybe your standards don't match. So I used to take that personally back in the early days, and now I know it's like, it changed after the last 3 years. I'm not the same person that I was in 2020 or even January of 2022. It has been survival, as you know, Matt. It has been survival of the fittest. You've had valuations go against you the wrong way. The only way to fix that is to find NOI, and the person that's going to help you is that person that works for you at those properties. And if they don't understand the situation you're in and they don't the urgency, then you got the wrong person, because it is all hands on deck. When your insurance quadruples, your taxes go up, your interest rates, you bought the deal thinking it was going to be like at 3 or 4%, and now it's like at 7%. You lost valuation. You got to get it back. So
well, it's interesting though. In the questionnaire for the interview, is said that you find it maybe this is you. You pride yourself in being able to do this. Finding NOI boosters, right? In a market that listen, it was a great run with regards to the increasing market that we had. Properties going up 5-10% in valuation a year, rents going up at some points at those ratios. Those two things aren't happening anymore. So we're in a market that's maybe it would be a compliment to call today's market stagnant, right? In that. So that means there's still got to be ways to move the needle though. So you pride yourself in being able to find NOI boosters, even in a declining market. What are some of those? Do you mind sharing some of those and kind of maybe giving us some anecdotes?
Yeah, like washer and dryer, LED lights, all that. Those are the standard NOI boosters that we all do when we buy a deal, right? These, what I'm going to give you, are the guy that's been operating for 18 years. Yeah. That's what you get. Number one secret sauce. You have a series of vendors. Yeah. Which of these vendors can I replace and still get the quality that I want? So one, I'm going to try to rework all my service agreements so I can find that hidden NOI that was in there. Two, if I can do it, I'm going to replace the vendor completely and do it in-house. Like the big one that we're doing right now is valet trash. We're getting ready to get rid of our valet trash contract. Now, as you all know, on valet trash, that's door-to-door trash pickup. The vendor charges us $12, $13. We charge back the resident $25 to $30.
It trips me out that there's third-party companies that do that, because think about what all valet trash is put your trash out in front of your doorstep on a certain day, and I got a guy that'll take it from the tenant's doorstep to the dumpster that you're also providing, right? Yes. So you have on-site do that, right?
So we're moving now to have on-site do that. Right. I think I mentioned one earlier was the parcel pending, right? Or the Amazon lockers. Yeah. That's a modern convenience that if I put that in place, that's $15 that I can make right away. And so we've had no issues getting that. And I think another one that we've done too, right? And you follow me on this, right? Is that many of you all charge security deposits. And you charge deposits anywhere from $300-$500 to up to 1 month's rent. Well, when you get that money, it doesn't really help the property. It goes into the balance sheet. You don't get that. And when the tenant leaves, you assess their final account statement, see if they owe you any money, and you take it out of the balance sheet. Well, when you're looking for NOI and your neck is on the line, right? Because you got the lenders calling and you're barely covering your DCR because your interest rates are now at 8 or 9%, you've got to find NOI. What we did was, instead of charging a deposit, we charge a deposit alternative fee. We're still going to run your credit. We're still going to do everything. But instead of you paying, 1 month's rent, which could be $1,000, I think that's what our average rent is at our apartments. We're going to charge you a deposit alternative fee of, let's say, $25, $30 each. So I've now turned your deposit into an actual income item, which goes straight to my NOI. So let's say I'm charging you $25 a month, 25 times 12, that's 300 divided by a cap rate of 0.065. I just created $4,600 of valuation just for that one unit by moving it off the balance sheet. Now, multiplied times 200 units, that's $923,000 that you created by just removing the process of creating a deposit to actually moving it to an income item. Now, with that, we would give them if they're paying $1,000, we'll give them $1,000 of damage coverage, right? But in the end, I need that NOI right now. Yeah. I don't need it later on when you move out. In fact, I don't want you ever to move out. So that's not a very good thing for me to wait for it. I need it right now. So and it's proved to be very, very strong for us.
It's $25 a month. And then when they move out, they get $1,000 worth of listen, I'll cover it. Me, landlord, I will cover you for the first $1,000 of damage that may end up occurring to some broken blinds or stained carpet or whatever. Listen, I get that wear and tear. I'll pick that up. You're obviously not picking up any back rent. Like if they walk out the door owing you a month or something like that, you're not picking any of that up. You're just going to, go through that through collections matters and that kind of thing, right?
Yes. Okay. Yes. So that's what it is. What we're trying to get that balance sheet item into the P&L where it can count against the NOI, and it's helped tremendously. Now we're doing is that we've hired a couple of virtual assistants.
Okay.
We're getting them from a third world country, paying them a couple $1,000s a month each, and they're calling all of our past delinquencies, and they're making deals. Before I send it to rent debt, before I send it to the third party collection, which, as you know, you're not going to get back a whole lot. It's a small percentage. Let my team go back first and see if we can get something where we're willing to write it off. Because when people move out of the apartments, rarely do they want to pay you, especially if they left owing rent. So
what's the recourse? It's if you pay me up, okay, tenant Joe Smith, you walk out the door owing me, real story of $2,500, $3,000. It's possible that could add up to that, right?
Yes.
Maybe you negotiate $1,200, something like that.
Yeah, or even $500. That's NOI that I did not have before, but I need, right? That collection goes against your rents. And I need it right now. And these are the things that we had to do. We had to get as much NOI built up so that when we do go and get our properties refinanced. I mean, Matt, I'm going to tell you a true story. I had 10 properties that had floating rate debt when this started. And it drove me insane. We blew through our reserves. We blew through our rehab that we had. We blew through it all. Fortunately, I've been able to get 8 of the 10 refinanced. I got 2 more, which will happen at the end of this month, but it was $160 million of loan dollars that I was able to get a refinance and put with Fannie or CBS or whatever the situation, whatever the lender was at that time. And it was using these NOI dollars. Using these NOI boosters to get the numbers up as much as possible.
That's brilliant. The quick question about the rent. You would have handed them, had your overseas team not worked out a deal to get you that. I mean, again, today you wrote the revenue off, right? It's off your book.
Wrote it off.
Yeah. Had you brought it back in, had you not done that, you would have turned them over to a third-party collections agency or something like that, right?
Yeah, we use a company called Rent Debt, a third-party group, and that's what a collection agency and what have you. So before it goes to them, we give our team 30 days, sometimes a little longer, but 30 days to go deal with the person who owes us the money. And let's say, like you said, if it's $2,500, if I can just get 20 cents on the dollar, right? $500. I need that 500 right now. I'm probably never going to get $2,500 from you ever. Never. And Rent Debt's going to call them anyway, and they're going to negotiate down anyway. So before I got to go to Rent Debt and pay their fee, let's see, can I get my number now so I can write the rest of this up, but I get that $500 of rent, which again will go straight to the NOI line. So we've got to find all the different ways that we can boost the NOI. Down south in my 4 properties down there, landscaping is ridiculous. on how expensive it is because it's more of a rural area, something I didn't calculate on that I remember now. We're now in the process of forming our own landscaping company internally. I'm going to buy, $25,000 of equipment. I'm going to hire a 3-man team, and all they're going to do is just, mow, blow, and go for my 4 deals all week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be half the price of what I'm paying to the vendor. And where's that going to be? That means that's more NOI dollars because I'm not paying, ABC vendor. I'm now taking, it's now being covered by the Rockstar interior crew. And that spread is going to go straight to NOI.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yet again, if you've got enough properties in the same geography, because if you own some properties and you said Tallahassee and then Atlanta and then a couple in Oklahoma, whatever, you're not cutting the grass. But if you own 80% of your portfolio in one town, best ever listeners, take note about scaling in a specific geography. Do not chase the shiny objects of other geographies that might show up on your radar. This is what's possible if you follow Robert's footsteps and pick a geography and then just invest there, right?
Yeah.
So, by the way, let's go there for a second. Any other benefits that you see? Okay, you've said already that if there is a problem and if you want to go check on an asset or if one of your executive team needs to go and look at a thing, it's in your backyard. It's like in your backyard in Houston could still be an 1.5-hour drive, but still, it's still close enough, right?
It's there. You can get to it. And again, that's the other thing too, right? It's like you have to recognize you are the last line of defense.
Yep.
Like the buck stops with you.
Yep.
And if you're not willing to do it, then why should you expect your team to do it? Like I remember we had a Class A property that was struggling, and I went out there myself on a Saturday night with my wife. And we stood out there for like an 1.5 hours, just drove around, sat in our cars and watched what kind of people were there. Watch what the issues were, watch to see where we can make improvements, and then I shared that data with my team. Now, not everybody's ready to do that, but that's also like a $50 million loan on my neck. So you have to realize like, what is your threshold? My threshold was I don't want to have to be foreclosed on that loan. I need to do whatever it takes. And by seeing me do it, everybody jumps in. And remember too, right? Like you're the one that signed on the dotted line. It means more to you than anybody else. So I'm not putting my fate in the hands of somebody else. I'm going to make sure that I have full awareness of what's going on because if anybody can enact change, it's me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other benefits that you have from being under the same roof? Like you said, I'll just say them back. Being able to be physically there. As you said, you and your wife going out to a property on a weekend or something like that, probably not happening if your properties are airplanes away. Starting your own landscaping company, brilliant. You probably have in-house, my guess is, given the performance concerns for HVAC, you probably have in-house HVAC techs, right? What other benefits in having your properties geographically all within a stone's throw of each other do you see as an owner as you've continued to scale?
Well, you get a lot of staff share. So we have a lot of staff share between you, right? So I've got a director of construction. I've got a director of maintenance, individual projects, right? The maintenance director oversees all the maintenance guys, the make-ready process. The director of construction, when there's a rehab, he would do the rehab. But when he's not, there's always something breaking. When you got 4,600 units, you always got a tricky stairwell or a landing that's sloping or trees that need pruning, right? So we have our own internal hit team that can go and hit these things. And I always like to say to my team, I'm not here to build anybody else's business. If we can do it in-house, we're going to do it in-house. I don't want to use ABC plumbing. I don't want to use ABC tree trimming, whatever. If we can do it in-house, let's do it in-house and keep the checks, keep the money here. I'm not here to build another company. So when you're local like that, you can have a team like that. You can have a floating team. You can have a little bit of additional weight there. And then, how do I say this the right way? When you have all your team there, you can allocate payroll how you need to allocate it. And Matt, you probably know what I'm talking about. Being an engineer, you're a numbers guy, right? I want to be at a certain threshold on my payroll on a property that's refinancing versus a property that, we just bought and we're starting to rehab. They can afford a little more payroll, right? So sometimes you can play with the numbers a little bit to just put what allocation you want. And you can't do that as easily if they're down south. Like, what is their benefit of that? There's no benefit there. So, and I'm going to end on that point there with that if you do decide to go away from the home office, at least do it with multiple properties if you can. Yeah. Like, don't buy in any city if you don't think you're going to grow. If
Yeah.
you're just buying because it's a one-off opportunity in some rural podunk town, don't buy it because you can never get any support. You can't create a portfolio around it. So at least down in Corpus and Kingsville, I've got almost 1,000 units there. Like they're their own company down there.
Yeah, it's its own little microcosm, right?
Yes.
I've told my team that we shouldn't be looking at a deal. Investor over listeners, perhaps this mantra speaks to you in that don't do a deal in a town that you wouldn't be willing to do another 1,000 units in, right? So if you're buying, even if it's a five unit property or whatever, you can't onesie twosie real estate. It's not a fast enough moving asset to onesie twosie. You got to be willing to build a business in that market. Because that little property you just bought is a business, but that business is not going to scale well until you own quite a few properties all around it.
Absolutely. And then, of course, when you're underwriting, you want to buy deals that somebody has owned a long time. And the reason for that is, man, especially now, look at all the different cycles you've gone through.
Whew.
Right? If they've owned it throughout those cycles, that means that deal is pretty healthy. And so right now, as we're starting to look at deals again, because we haven't bought a deal since 2022, I don't know about you guys, but we were dead in the water just trying to work on the deals that we have floating rate debt on. So we put all of our there. But now we're looking at deals again. Well, I also have deals that are maturing. I'm like, wow, the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. Let's say, Matt, you want to sell me a deal, right? But it's not your best deal. I don't know that. I don't know that. But if I have a deal that is maturing, why shouldn't I buy my own deal back? Like, I'm happy with it. We've survived. I know where all the bodies are buried. I know what makes it work. I know what it needs, and if it's been 10 years, your heavy lifting and rehab was done 10 years ago. Like you've only been putting little bit by little bit in when you need to. So bring in a new equity group, pay off the old ones. They get their returns and you put in a new bucket of money to go do the ACs again, to go do the toilets, to go do, whatever you want to do. So underwriting, you should look for the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Make sure it's cash flowing day one, especially in this environment. Try to find what you can. Don't do heavy rehabs in this environment or heavy value adds. They're unnecessary. There's too many good deals out there that you can buy. It's not the deal that's distressed typically. It's the seller that's distressed in the market, especially if the deal was bought in the last 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, the deals that I've seen that are being sold by somebody that bought the deal in the last 5 years are likely deals that they couldn't figure out, right? You said the deals that have been owned the last 10 years, as you said, those are deals that they're just coming to fruition. They're just graduating. We're just stepping out because you got a lot of equity in them, whatever. That's a way different conversation. So best ever listeners, be careful. If you look at a property, first thing you want to ask is how long have they owned it? Because if it's like 18 months or less, the property is probably built on top of a graveyard and it's haunted and it's got just all kinds of bad things going on and they overpaid and they're trying to pass their problem down line to you, right? So Robert, you had told me offline before we got onto the interview about a deal that you've done that's a 9x multiple and you're buying it yourself. Unpack that for me because it goes into what you were saying before about why not dance with the devil in properties that Talk us through that deal, how it went down, give us all the goodies on it.
Right. So in 2010, in March, I bought this deal for $24,500 a door. It's 118 units. The guy before me had held it for 10 plus years. And it's an 80s built property. So I'm only the third owner of this 1983 built property. So what does that signal? That signals that long-term ownership, the deal has been good. Because I bought it in 2010, a lot of the rehab is expired or it's been spent. We didn't do a lot of the things in 2010 that we were doing later on in our rehabs. So there's a lot of opportunity. We know where the market needs to go. We know what we need to do. And so that deal, we went out to market and I took the highest offer, unknown guy, and, lost 2 to 3 weeks during the contract stage. And he backed out and said he couldn't do the deal anymore. I went to the second place guy who had expressed interest, but it's been 3 weeks. He found something else. So I was like, okay. So then I went out to the market again and I couldn't get the same offers that I was there. So I told my investor group, like, you know what? We've got about 90 days left before our maturity. We've wasted, a couple of months in this back and forth. I think I'm going to buy the deal back. So we're gonna use a valuation based off of the guy that came in second place, which at the time was 13.5 million. That will result in unlocking what's going to become a 9x multiple when we sell that deal back to ourselves. I'm going to go out and recapitalize it with new equity, right? Because everybody knows of this deal in my portfolio. This is the original legacy deal. This is the deal that's Disneyland, that distributed all the time, no matter what the market was. It always stayed full. So why would I want to give that kind of deal to somebody else? And let them have the fortune of that. Like, I know that deal. So I convinced my investors that we're going to raise money to get new debt on it. And again, this deal was selling less than what it probably could have sold in January 2022. So hopefully that's the upside down the line. But if not, it's okay. We know where market rents are. We know the renovations we need to get. I mean, it's got first generation rehab in it, right? So we're going to change out cabinet fronts. We're going to add knobbies and pulleys and a lot of things that we didn't do in 2010 on the original rehab. And I think we're going to make we'll make somewhere between 150 to 175 rent boost, because that's what we're getting at other properties that we own.
Do you see us get into a world in real estate syndications where the idea, I think we might get to a world like the selling was kind of the way that a lot of people made their money over the last 78 years, man. Is that you'd make a little bit in cash flow and you make a ginormous shot in the arm, as you would your investors, on sale. I think that we're moving more towards a cash flow economy for multifamily and for real estate investing in general, which means that sale may become a little bit more passé, right? It might become like, well, you could, but why? You know, like if, like you said, you figure it out, you're making cash flow right now, if you can figure out the equations. So I think that we might get to a world where your investor, Joe Smith, might decide he wants to sell his equity and Sally Jones sitting right next to him might want to stay in, right? I think that with everything changes in regards to SEC regulations and that kind of stuff, I think we might get to a world where there might be portals to do this, or you might be able to sell, like to, you know, for a fee, hey, listen, Joe Smith, you want out? Great, no problem. Be great having you as an investor. I get you want to retire. I get you want to take this money and send your kids to college, whatever it may be. I'll help you sell your seat on the bus in this property. Do we get to a point where investors can exit without you selling the asset?
Well, and this is very important for all of us.
I'm getting you to pull out your crystal ball right now.
No, this is really good. This is a real world example for us.
Yeah.
Right. A seller can sell at any point of the ownership period. The thing is, they're not going to get maximum value.
Yeah.
Because there's no appraisal, there's no requirement to say, hey, here's max value. So you're going to get what the market will give you. So I've seen deals where people needed the money for one reason and after another. People were having their own issues in their own personal lives. I've seen it sell for 50 cents on the dollar, 30 cents on the dollar. And even then, people weren't sure they wanted to buy them out. So I started looking at that for a while. I was like, wow. Why aren't I buying them out? I'm the GP. I'm confident in this deal. You want to sell to me at 30 cents on the dollar and jump out of line? That's okay. I believe in, me. So you're a $100,000 investor. You need to get out, right? You took 30 cents on the dollar. So I'll give you 30K. Now I've got your 100,000 equity. That's a great opportunity for a lot of people, either the GP or the LP, to get involved, right? To get your money working and especially on a property that you like. At a discount. I don't recommend ever somebody jumping out of line, because you're never going to get maximum value. But I've seen it happen the last 2 years. And so I said, well, if y'all are willing to do that, I'm telling you not to do it. I'm telling you, whatever. And then you're going to have recapture, depreciation, whatever you got. If you guys understand that, that's fine. I'm happy to give you the 50 cents on the dollar or 30 cents on the dollar, because I believe in that deal. So that's happened for me a few times. I don't recommend that to any investor, to jump out of line and sell their equity before everybody else. You're not going to get fair market value.
Yeah, it happens. It's not as common. I think we might get to a world where there's more vehicles and more like maybe crowdfunding platforms that allow for it more easily. But you're right. You're not going to get top dollar in these days.
Not going to get top dollar. The other thing too is, I have 4,600 units, Matt. I would gladly own 2,000 if I could do it all by myself. If I can have 2,000, it's all by myself, where I own all the equity, that would be amazing. Yeah. So you don't have any investors. You can do what you need to do internally. All the cash comes to you, so I would love that. So, don't look at me and think, oh, he's got 5,000 units. That's where I want to go. That was my mistake, looking at someone like Grant or someone else. I don't want to do that. In fact, the next 12 to 24 months, we have maturities coming in, and some of those deals, if I don't want them, I'm going to let them go. I'm just going to let them go, because I like to peel back my portfolio so I can get it more manageable.
You mean sell them. You mean like let them go. You're going to be putting them up on the market for sale.
I'm going to put them up to market, sell, get my equity. Man, you don't know what cash poor is until the last 24 months when you needed that cash. I mean, and again, as you guys know, because you guys are big guys too, where you got to be the bank. You've got to lend a property money when you need to. You've got to support it. You've got to do whatever you need to make sure the property gets to the next month, right? So having liquidity is so important, much more important than what anybody ever explained to me back in 2008. I've got a certain minimum now that I won't go below because I got to have that in there in case there's an unforeseen, circumstance.
Now we know what the banks require us to have liquidity is that because there is a rainy day and sometimes it does rain,
Yes.
So going back to one last thing before I let you go here, I have met so many, you've got to be like the 2 or 3, like the 24th, 25th engineer, engineering training, with training, but is now a real estate investor like myself. Good friends of mine that perhaps like Andrew Cushman and guys like that are long-term real estate investors, but also get the training in engineering. And I see you went to A&M, I went to Virginia Tech. We played you guys in football once or twice or something like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, right? But it doesn't. Why do you think the engineer brain does so well in real estate investing?
You know what? I think real estate investing is catered for an engineer because it's based on one equation. NOI divided by cap rate is your valuation. Like nowhere in college, if you're an engineer in any of the calculus and whatever courses that we took, did they ever teach you that 1 + 1 is not 2?
Yeah.
It's 2 to the everyday person. But 1 + 1 on 2 on an NOI model valuation is more like 30.
Yeah.
Right. And for y'all that maybe don't understand that, right? Everything we do is with the NOI in mind. We need to maximize revenue. We need to minimize expenses and increase NOI and divide that by the cap rate. And there's your valuation. That's a very simple formula for a lot of people to get, especially engineers. Engineers, we're so used to so many things that we're good at numbers. I'm sure I gave you, a addition problem or a subtraction problem, 2 or 3 digits, and you could probably figure it out really good because you're good with math. We're wired. We're very analytical when it comes to that. So, I think if you have good math skills, you can be an excellent operator. I think the difference for me is that I wasn't one of the guys that got 4.0s, probably like you, right? I was more in the 2 point something. No? Okay. Bro, I was more in the 2 point something range because I have a personality. So if you can combine an engineer mind with a personality, meaning salesmanship, you can do a lot. You can go a whole lot down here, I
got my degree in engineering and then I got a job in sales because I realized what an engineer.
That's what I did.
I was good at math and science, right? I was good at all that. I was good at the logic of engineering in that. But when it got down to what an engineer did, what their job looked like, I'll be like, I don't want to sit on a desk. There's not people at that desk. I need people. The problem is you take an extrovert and combine them with an engineer, and it just doesn't really fit for engineering, right? Like a true engineer is like Dilbert. Remember that cartoon, right? With the curly tie, right? But people like you and I, that analytical engineer brain, but also the need for people and for, to kind of have a little bit of that human interaction around us. It just does not jive for the engineering equation. So I think that's why there's real estate investing.
I think it's the analytical part that this plus this equals this. That's how you figure out that, you make all your money in real estate when people renews because you have all these expenses when somebody moves out. That's going to hurt you on the NOI. So, if you can keep somebody from leaving, you just added $50,000 of valuation. If they walk out, it's $50,000 of loss valuation. That makes a lot of sense to an engineer, right? He's like, okay, let me analyze every single piece here. What can I do to get this to where I want the result that I'm looking for?
Absolutely. So, Robert, been a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us in the Best Ever CRE show today. For those that want to hear more about you, for all the nuggets that you dropped today, for whatever reason they want to reach out, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, first of all, thank you for being on your podcast. I've always wanted to be here. So I've heard about it. I've listened to it, and it's a blessing to be on it for you guys. If you want to keep in touch with me, I'm on social media, whether it's on Instagram at Apartment Rockstar or on YouTube, or if you just want to be my friend on Facebook, hit me up at Robert Martinez.
All right, guys, look up Rockstar Capital. Hear more about the great growth things that they're up to down there in Houston. Robert, thank you so much for joining us in the Best Ever CRE show today.
Matt, thanks so much.
Wow, best ever listeners, great conversation with Robert Martinez. I really enjoyed that. It's good hearing from people that have been in this business for over a decade and hear what changes they've seen, the ways that they've grown, how they've grown, because a lot of people try and grow, but the fact is successfully grow their business in this industry and get to thousands and thousands of units it's just great hearing those stories. So I hope you guys got a lot out of that too. A lot of good nuggets. And I want to guys highlight again, the NOI boosters he talked about could make you tons of money in your property. So many good ones he listed out right there in the interview. I mean, I wrote a few of them down for myself personally, and I hope you guys did too, in ways that you guys can, save or create a few dollars of revenue, which could create thousands, if not millions of dollars in revenue in value, creating thousands of dollars in revenue on your property. On the bottom line, NOI could create millions of dollars in value in your property in the future. So it's all about boosting the NOI. There's lots of ways to do it. It's not just about increasing rents and decreasing expenses. There's certain nuances to do it. Robert has given us his NOI booster list for free. And I want you guys to go to bestevercre.com/rockstar, bestevercre.com/rockstar, and grab a copy of Robert Martinez's free NOI booster list that he has been so gracious as to provide to us. So go there and grab it. Guys, if you guys enjoy what we talk about here on Best Ever, why are you not a subscriber? I don't know. I'm talking to you, non-subscriber. Well, join the cool kids, become a subscriber to this episode in your favorite podcasting app so that your favorite podcasting app will tell you about episodes from me, your buddy Matt, and all the other awesome hosts we have here on Best Ever CRE as they drop out on a daily basis. So go ahead and please like this episode and subscribe to it in your feed so you see them come down the pipeline every day. Thank you guys for listening and have a best ever day.